We about a year and a half ago, maybe more, like 2 years, we went through the process of creating a essentially like an issue reporter for our public works department. We called it Resident Repair Radar. Great name, right? And we uh, created it so that it could actually feed directly into our asset operations management software, Cartograph or OpenGov. And so this is what it looks like. It's a pretty basic Survey123 form. And our communications specialist liked it and determined that maybe we could look at creating one for the entirety of the city. And on our city website, instead of having a little, contact us option down at the bottom, that would send to like a general email, which is how it was done in the past. We could do something a little bit more deliberate and a little bit more automated as far as distributing that information to its proper recipients. So what I asked of her was to put together a spreadsheet of all the possible categories that people tend to reach out, right? This is a spreadsheet that she sent to me. And we determined that it would be best to kind of treat it in a way that makes the end product the most accessible and the most user-friendly for our residents. We decided that that was by going with main dropdowns, a subcategory, and a second subcategory. And so you can do this in Survey123 using a couple of different things like cascading selects or choice filters. So we looked at this spreadsheet, determined what issues would be spatially relevant, right? So not everything requires a location on a map, right? Not everything requires a photo to be uploaded. And further, we wanted to automatically distribute that information using this list of email addresses here. And also on the Survey123 form itself, provide a link to a URL where relevant information can be found. So what it ended up looking like, and I'll show you the end product first and then go through Survey123 Connect and some kind of nuts and bolts. It ended up looking like this here. So its beauty is its simplicity, right? We capture contact information, the topic, and then relevant information to the topic, right? So everything is conditional. It's visibility for the most part, right? So if nobody wants or if no follow-up is needed, we're not going to require them to enter their contact information, email address, etc. And then we kind of start getting into the idea of like conditional visibility and choice filters, right? So on the back end, I suppose I'll show you that as well. We are actually only referencing with the select one lists. We're only actually using 3 fields on the feature class. And so those are subcategory, topic, and second subcategory. So when you select a topic, if relevant, there will be a subcategory, right? And if you select one of the more, I suppose, intensive or intricate selections, a second subcategory will show up. And instead of having these as a number of different fields, right, which is how I initially set it up, which turned out to be a massive pain. And that would look like having a field, the topic field, recreation programs selected, and then I would have a library of subcategories for recreation programs. I decided it would be best to use pardon me, here's 1 second while I continue to pull stuff up, the choice filters, right? I found those in the Esri community area of their website. Usually like the tricks of the trade articles I found to be like very valuable, right? This is what I use for my choice filters. This is what down the line I used for whole data, right? And I can provide those links if anybody does want them. But that's what we ended up using to keep things nice and neat. So going way back to the form itself, they will select their topic, their subcategory, and if relevant, their additional subtopic. And then they will simply provide information, a location description if relevant. If they choose to, they can drop a pin and add a photo. And then here is that website that I referenced earlier. So like I said, its beauty is in its simplicity, at least on the front end. On the back end, everything was done in Survey123 Connect, right? So if you aren't familiar, your forms, instead of being done with like drag and drop modules, are actually controlled via that XLS form. So that's what it is here. You create your fields in these two columns and provide hints if relevant, right? Like saying, please describe the issue of your location, etc. And then you can do more kind of intricate or detailed stuff over here on the right. So in the instance of conditional visibility, you just go to the relevant column, and then you just use this syntax here to say, okay, we'll only show this subcategory field if one of these topics are selected, right? So it's very straightforward and intuitive. And then further, you can do the same thing. Only show these subtopics if business and commercial is selected, etc. And so that's kind of one thing that keeps the interface that our users reference nice and clean. And then beyond that, we also use, for the sake of keeping things clean on our end as GIS professionals, we're using pull data functions. So that's something that I had to learn for this project. It ended up being a lot more straightforward and intuitive than I would have initially thought after reading like the documentation on it. But basically, the way that pull data works in this instance is saying, okay, if the second subcategory is not null, pull the data from this CSV that is actually stored in Survey123 Connect as well in files. It's saying, okay, well, if that is not null, then pull data, the email lookup that matches that second subcategory, right? And this is probably all very convoluted, and I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, but I'm also not a teacher. So here's that CSV that the lookup is referencing, or the pull data, I should say. So you'll see we have 3 columns: topic, subcategory, second subcategory. In this instance, if conditional use permit is the second subcategory that is pulled, it's going to then populate the email field with the ComDev email address. So this is really nice because it's covering all the possible selections of the survey. And we only have to have one list of email addresses to maintain. So if we were to want to change the email address for all recreation programs to parksrecreation@applevalleyMN.gov, we have one file that we need to go in and change versus, kind of trying to recall and remember where everything is pointing to that. And then we do the same thing actually with the website as well. So if we wanted to go and change the URL for a specific topic subcategory or second subcategory, we do that here. So it's very straightforward and very pretty fluid for the most part. And it's proven to be a pretty good solution for us. So that's kind of the back end of the survey itself. I went through it very quickly, so if you have questions, just reach out directly. So what it does then, if I were to submit this inquiry, it then will, using Power Automate, actually send an email to our staff, right? So one of those emails in that lookup, we'll get an email that looks something like this. So it's sent from a shared Outlook inbox, AVGIS, to the recipient. It copies me because I like to keep tabs, and if things stop coming through, I go make sure that the Power Automate's working, etc. And so this is what is sent. And it contains a report that is also generated via Power Automate. That report looks like this. So this is a mock one that I created. It just includes all of the relevant information, submission time, contacts, the actual issue. If relevant, it'll show the location and the photo. And then it makes it really nice and handy for our admin staff to triage these and determine the best course of action going forward. The Power Automate itself, you can also find in the Esri community. But this is what ours looks like. So when a response is submitted, it creates that report. It pushes that report into my OneDrive. Then that OneDrive file is actually sent via the email. So, and like I said, this is an established workflow on the Esri site, but I can provide some troubleshooting steps if necessary. And yeah, so that's kind of the start to finish whirlwind tour of our submit an inquiry form. We found it to be pretty successful in terms of reducing general emails to like our front desk asking, who do I talk to if this? The form actually kind of handholds you through, well, you know, our parks, who's responsible for this or that, or who's responsible for street and utilities. It'll point you in the direction and not allow you to submit if you actually want to report a utility issue, and it'll say, hey, please go to our resident repair radar. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have. We've gotten over 600 submissions in probably about like 6 months, maybe. There was a version 1 before this that was like way worse. But so it probably had like 100 submissions. But yeah, so this is kind of the way that our city has determined most efficient to distribute inquiries to relevant divisions and folks in the city. So, like I said, really quick, if anybody has any questions, feel free.
This is really great, Tyler. I definitely have questions, but would love for other people to have an opportunity to ask first. Looks like Gavin was saying here about Power Automate. He's a power platform specialist for his day job, which is always cool to see those connections.
Yeah, I actually make a lot of Power Apps and do some Power and doing some Power BI as well. I actually made a nice little map about like where all of our people have MFA enabled in their accounts.
Very cool. Yeah, I know it's something we're trying to leverage more in the city. We love automation as most people should. And it's something I'm trying to learn. And it seems like Esri is kind of embracing it and pretty regularly adding different triggers and building blocks to make automation a little bit more accessible to us non IT professionals and computer science folks.
Yeah, I did a little bit too much automation. I optimized it too much, and I was hitting rate limits from SharePoint.
Yeah, I don't
And I
think we'll
was
get
doing
there
like,
with our city, but you never know, I guess. So
yeah. So it was good seeing that.
Tyler, I'm wondering with all of this data that you're collecting with this form, what kinds of reporting or trends have you been able to see with like what are the most common requests you get? Have there been anything as far as like people within your organization who have asked for kind of like summary reports and things like that, along with just the individual information?
that's a good question. I think it's been pretty universal in thumbs up. People tend to appreciate it. We haven't done any overall analysis. I kind of get like a gut analysis or gut trends just by looking at everything that comes through. Like right now, for example, we're seeing a bunch of inquiries about a proposed data center, a bunch of inquiries about Apple Valley, our police involvement with the ICE stuff that's going on. But as far as overall trends, I think the most, and maybe we can actually take a look here. Just give me 1 second. While I do that, just pulling up the Survey123. and we can kind of all look at it at a glance. There's nothing sensitive in here as far as what I'm going to pull up, I believe. So just give me 1 second to prove that, though. Okay, perfect. So as far as topics goes, you'll see like by far the most common is a general inquiry. We actually by design buried that in the drop down because we wanted folks to intentionally look through the list prior to just, I'm fired up, I'm going to select general inquiry. So that is one other tip I would have. It's like you can be very deliberate about your lists in this application and kind of take a step back and look at it from like the perspective of a resident, or more specifically, like a fired up resident, and try to cater to them and guide them in the right direction. It looks like our second most popular category is city projects, which also makes sense. People either want to know when they're going to be addressed, or when, if they're being addressed, they're going to be out of a project zone. Those tend to be really popular questions. And then there within the subcategories, this kind of all is relevant to the two I just spoke of. General dash administration is definitely the most common we get. And then city projects, city improvement projects like recons and mill and overlays that tend to disrupt traffic or people's day-to-day lives, unfortunately. Those also tend to be hot topics.
Makes sense. Delia is asking for when it looks like you're generating a report using Survey123 and Power Automate, and then that's what you're setting as an attachment.
Mhm.
Have you run into any storage issues, or like how are you keeping those reports organized afterward? Like, is there a system for how long they're being stored and then deleted, or what are you doing after those reports have been emailed?
So we haven't run into any storage issues yet. My uh we our city, as a whole is just kind of coming around to the Microsoft 365, especially the web environment. So I'm sure eventually IT will question why I have all of these individual reports in my OneDrive, but we haven't gotten there yet. I know in the actual Power Automate, there is, I believe, an option to overwrite the file versus creating a new. Um, which I could see being a reasonable solution to that, because even if you overwrite the report, the data won't be maintained in the feature class. So it's like you don't necessarily need to maintain it in two spots. Um,
Mhm.
so that'd be kind of if I were to go in and redo some of it, that would be kind of my path forward, I would assume. Another thing too, just about Power Automated, it might be organization specific, is I'll have to come in here and refresh my connections. I try to just do it weekly. Um, all of a sudden I'll get like an unexplained failure in Power Automate where my flow isn't delivering the emails. And it tends to be that my ArcGIS online connection needs to be refreshed. So that's another thing if you're going to set this up to keep in mind.
Yep, those are always fun. Have you had any general feedback from staff who are receiving these as far as like their satisfaction rate, or that it's helping them, I guess, be more efficient or find stuff more quickly?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it was initially being created. I kind of did like a little bit of a guinea pig group of folks that I have like really regular contact with. And they all really enjoyed the additional information and the standardization of information being delivered. Um, People, when they're just sending like a generalized email, everybody types differently, everybody uses, different formatting. Whereas this really standardizes it and it says, this is the issue, this is who reported it, this is where it is, right? And so it really gets quickly to the issue itself,
Mhm.
versus having to reach out to the resident, get additional follow-up. Where is this? What's going on? Et cetera. So
That's great. Looks like Gavin's saying you might be able to ask IT for a service account that doesn't expire for connections. That's a good idea. And then Scott is asking, when looking at the data and graphs in Survey 123, if the question's long, does anyone know if there's a way to view the full question above the graph instead of the question being cut off? I'm guessing that that's within the analyze section of the survey.
Yeah, Tyler, do you have any of those examples and analyze that you were just looking at?
That's a good question. Let me pull it back up and we can look at it as a group. I'm not entirely sure.
We have one for our inspection department, and they want to use some of those graphs, but the actual question being asked and reported on gets cut off in Survey123 analyze, and it's been a little annoying.
Sure.
So just curious if anybody else has had that issue and if anybody has a good solution for that.
Looking at this survey specifically, all of my prompts are quite short, so I can't necessarily drag that one up. But no, I don't necessarily have a good answer for you, other than the manual option of dragging the data into Excel and creating it yourself, which is kind of redundant and silly. But maybe somebody else in the group has a good idea for you.
A dashboard app, that's an interesting idea, Anetta. You willing to share a little bit more about that idea?
Me just unmute. If you can get the data out of Survey123, it should be in a service, and then you should be able to put it into a dashboard app, and then you can do your charts and figures and graphs, and you should have a little with Arcade or whatever, you should be able to format it better, or at least have a number system, and with your have a legend showing what each number is or so. I know we use dashboard, a lot of our engineers like to see all the charts and graphs of different projects, things like that. So we use dashboard a lot to make those.
Yeah, that was an option that we thought about, and it's primarily that inspection survey and one for the police department where they want to share the information, and the graphs and tables are really nice and the output from Survey123. And it'd be nice if there was just a way to expand the full question so that you didn't have to do any of that stuff. But that is probably what we'll have to do. Not too difficult. Thanks.